Fantastic, and welcome to everybody that's joined us on this Wednesday. We appreciate the fact that you've taken the time. I'm going to be running this presentation as quickly as possible, providing you with as much information as possible so that you can draw up a list of questions. I'm going to suggest that you just grab a notepad, have the notepad on the right-hand side of your desk, together with your cup of coffee, and jot down the notes, jot down the questions, and then hold your questions right to the end. And obviously what we'll do is when we get to the end, we will open the microphones. We will actually have an interaction, and I've got a lot of people over here. We've got a number of licensees that are here, and I want to say to our licensees, welcome. Lovely to have you with us again. One of our licensees is Jerome Jacobs, and he operates both between Cape Town and Angola, and Jerome has been one of our longest standing licensees. Jerome, how many years have you been a licensee? Okay, well, Jerome's getting his act together. I'm going to ask Penny. I'm going to mute myself, Penny, and you, or no, you can come across here and introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hi, I'm Penny. I'm currently just doing the back office on the side here. I am Ken's co-founder and also wife. We started the business more than 14 years ago, not the boss. Yeah, our mission was to help training providers in health and safety specifically, making life easier for you, getting rid of challenges like poor quality training material, making sure you can get your accreditations more easily, verifications, etc., and just in general, giving you more time to do what you do best, which is being in the classroom. I'm more on the financial side of the business and the delivery side of the business. I also head up the e-learning platform and the accreditation workshops and support program as well. So looking forward to being of service to you. And yeah, this is a general information session, but we look forward to the one-on-one with you so that we can see how we can help you further. Thanks so much. Looking forward.
As you can see, high tech, sitting on chairs, moving backwards and forwards. Now, as you get to know us, you'll notice that we don't take life too seriously. And it's obviously important from a health and safety point of view, because right in the beginning of my health and safety journey, I found that a lot of the lecturers were boring, and it was a pain to sit through some of these workshops. When I did my SAM track, I saw the back of the guy's head for maybe a month, and it just wasn't inspiring. So I have endeavored the entire journey to make it as interesting and as motivational as possible. And you'll see that that's one of our approaches. I'm going to ask Natalie to introduce herself. Natalie, over to you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the CRM manager. So I'm usually your first point of call on your journey to becoming a licensee. And I'm here to give you all the information that you need, share the prospectus, do the quotes, and here just to answer any initial questions and book one-on-one calls that you may want to have. So if you need anything, I'm your person. I will put my details in the chat and feel free to get in touch via WhatsApp or email. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. And for those of you that have joined us now, we're recording it. So I'm going to ask you, there's a chat box down below, to respond in the chat box. You also know that there is a response thing where you can stick your hand up and ask questions and things like that. And I see Wendy's here. Wendy, we met you for the first time last week at AOSH. Nice to have you with us. And maybe there are one or two other people that have come through from AOSH as well, and we'll chat to you afterwards. So there we go. I think the main thing that we want to do is we want to talk about the business side of it. We want to talk to you as if you are business owners, either brand new startup business owners or existing business owners, where you're going to integrate occupational health and safety training into your business. Maybe you're consultants and you've been doing health and safety talks and training, but now you want to formalize it with accreditation and verification and all of those sorts of things. So let's go straight on to the presentation. Natalie, can you confirm? Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Great. Okay, let's get straight into it. So you would have received an invitation either person to person at AOSH, which is the largest expo in Africa for occupational health and safety and other things, or you would have received an email, or you might have received a WhatsApp message, but somehow, or maybe you stumbled across us on the internet and you went, oh, this is interesting. Let me have a look and see if we can actually do this. And the offering that we have is to help you become an accredited occupational health and safety training provider. I've been in the health and safety training game for a long time, but I'm not a lawyer. And I want to say that again and again and again and again. Even though we're dealing with occupational health and safety legislation, I'm not a lawyer. And if you need information or assistance or support or insight, we know a lot of lawyers that will be able to assist you. And not only that, it's important to know that you mustn't put yourself out as a legal expert. That's a very important factor. So a document that you'll receive from Natalie, if you haven't received it yet, is a document called the prospectus. And if you don't mind, just grab your phone and take a photograph of Natalie's work number. It's 069 652 9696, 069 652 9696. If you happen to be watching the video, everything that we say here is sustainable. Is not sustainable. The word is supportable, if you like, in this document and obviously the video that we're going to be recording today. So there we go. Let's move straight into it. I started my journey with occupational health and safety with NOSA. I worked for NOSA in Cape Town for 5 years, then set up a company called INTRA Train. And INTRA Train was for 7 years a training company doing safety training. I've been through the transition from the old Factories Act to the Machinery and Occupational Safety Act, from there to the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And I've been involved in various forms of fashion in the health and safety world. I've spoken at countless conferences. I've written a number of occupational health and safety books and so forth. And we'll tell you more about that as we go along. But this is not about me. This is about the team, because I'm not on my own. Just looking at that image over there, you'll see Penny and Natalie, and then our development team, our lawyer, our accountant, and our IT guy. So these people are people that will be available to you if you need their services, obviously for a small fee, but they're people that we've been working with for the past 14 years. As a result of the work that we've been doing, we've got over 300 licensees in Africa, from Dubai right down to Durbanville. Some of them are active, others are not. Some are in-house trainers, others are training providers, commercial training providers. And where possible, we will introduce you to them and their skills and competencies to you so that you can expand your team and or your services as things happen. Now, I'm not sure if you know this, but currently, of the 65, 66 million people in South Africa, it is said that about 17 million are employed. Now, of that, only about 500,000 are covered by the Mines Health and Safety Act. The rest of them, 16.5 million people, are covered by the Occupational Health and Safety Act, or the OSA. Some people call it the OHS Act. Now, if you think of it from a business point of view, that is a huge, huge opportunity for you and other trainers certainly in South Africa, and then there is 1 billion people on the African continent. So immediately I say to you, wow, why not? If I was younger and I had more energy, I could probably go and work in Africa for the next 20 years. Okay, now I mentioned the Occupational Health and Safety Act because it's an important piece of legislation. We all know it. I'm sure you've been through it. You've seen Section 8, but I'm going to suggest this. Section 8 is the foundation of all occupational health and safety training in South Africa. And I'm going to suggest take a photograph of this, because it sets it up that every single employer must do occupational health and safety. And training is a large portion of that. So let me just quickly run through Section 8, then Section 13. The question is, who must do the training? The employer. But the employer probably can't, because the employer is busy being an employer and running the organizations. So the employer can contract somebody to do the training for them, and that could be you. And it's important to know that you would then be working for the employer under their banner. Now, Section 8 says, first thing, establish the hazards. The employer must establish the hazards. Secondly, it says the employer must establish the precautionary measures or safe work procedures. Thirdly, it says the employer must inform, instruct, and train their staff in those hazards and precautionary measures. And then, of course, it says the employer must provide supervision. Now, from there onwards, what we can see is that Section 13 tells you to what level the information, instruction, and training must take place. And it says there that the employee must be made conversant. How about that? So that immediately establishes the standard to which we're training. I heard yesterday somebody was saying that they were dealing with somebody up in Secunda where the training provider came in, handed out the books, handed out the question paper, got the people to work through the books and the question paper, and then walked out. Obviously, at that stage, he invoiced the client, and also issued a certificate of attendance. Now, that's fraud. That's just not right. So what we're looking at is raising the standard, making sure these things are done properly. And we'll break it down for you. You may not be somebody that is familiar with the legislation. My experience with the legislation goes back to police college, where I spent a year studying criminal legislation amongst the other topics as well. And I like legislation. I like reading it, I like understanding it, and I like debating it and discussing with people. But let's just quickly go back. There are 3 words in point 3: inform, instruct, and train. They are 3 different things. And I often say to people, can you show me a list, let's say an attendance list, of everybody that you provided information for, apart from the training? Do you have an attendance list? And that's a very important opportunity for you, because you are allowed to provide information for and on behalf of the contractor, of the employer, as a contractor. Okay, so bear that in mind. We'll move on. Section 13 says every employee. Okay, so that's 17 million. Let's take off 500,000. 16.5 million employees must be made conversant with what? With the hazards of what? Of the employer's workplace. Not generic, not off the shelf. Customized, specific, risk-specific training. Okay, so they must be familiar with the hazards, as well as the precautionary measures or skills, or should we call them safe work procedures that apply. Okay, now what kind of programs would come up when the employer has done the hazard identification? And by the way, you can do that for them as a contractor, or a mandatory, as we speak of in the legislation. Have a look at that list. It's long. And this is a fraction of what training, information, or instruction needs to take place. It's just a fraction. I've got a list of 163 elements that the average employee in a workplace may need to be exposed to. Okay, I highlight the occupational hygiene one because now, in a couple of days' time, that becomes law. And for those of you that are involved in the occupational safety world or the occupational health world, welcome to occupational hygiene. We'll talk a lot about that in the near future. Now, what if the employer doesn't do it? Well, I'm going to read this to you. This is section 38. It speaks of any person, 17 million, every trainer, every contractor, every mandatory who is guilty of an offense and is convicted in terms of this act could be fined 50,000, or, and those of you that are familiar with it, and I served on the SIOSH technical committee discussing the amendment bill, the fine, when implemented, and I'm going to say if and when implemented, will go up to 5 million. And that's a lot of money. How many of us have 5 million rand lying around? No, we don't. Okay, so part of the information game or training game is education and bringing people, creating an awareness so that people are familiar with it, bringing them into the scenario where they know what they're talking about. But I also want to point out to you, and this is a very important thing, Section 37 talks about if you, the mandatory of the contractor, break the law. I'm going to strongly urge you, jot that down in a notepad that's on the right-hand side. I'm going to strongly urge you to go and read Section 37 and see what obligation we as contractors have to the employer. All right, enough about that. I don't like frightening people with the legislation, but it's the reality. It is criminal legislation and we need to be aware of it. Okay. So what we did is that we looked at the training scenario. Having run this training company for 7 years, we decided we would work with people who want to set up their own training companies or expand their training companies or expand their consultancy. And we put together 4 licenses. And these licenses are similar to franchises. They're not a franchise in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, but we have a starter license, a basic license, a prime license, and then the platinum license. Unless you're a corporate, you can ignore the platinum license. And my focus and our focus will be, we're suggesting, consider the prime license because that's where the QCTO accreditation process comes in. All of this is in the prospectus, and Natalie will let you have that on request. So let's just quickly talk about what this license looks like. Well, I said it's like a franchise. It's not a franchise, but this license has various elements. Now, I'll just scoot through them very quickly. We give you these options that I've spoken about. There are 4 options. Then Penny does an onboarding for the licensee, and the licensee comes on board, and we unpack everything that we're going to be providing you. Now, when I say unpack, if you become a prime licensee, you'll be receiving about R250,000 worth of services and product and support and things like that up front. And we'll talk about the costings in a short while. She does the onboarding. Then I start with a monthly business orientation session, and we'll talk sales and marketing and advertising and promotions. We'll talk changes to the legislation. We'll talk updates to the QCTO, the SACWA, CETA, NQF stuff, so that you don't have to go and do this research. We'll provide it to you. At least once you've been through the session, you'll have an understanding of how it works and can ask all the right questions. And then we have product orientation sessions, which I'll talk to you about in a short while. We also have an online marketing setup, which Natalie will talk about in a short while. So that's the first phase of our, should we call it license or our franchise? Then we've got a lot of training material. We have legal compliance training material. Many people don't understand what they mean by legal compliance, and I will share that with you. We have an extensive e-learning platform. We still have, until the end of this month, SACWA unit standard aligned training material. We have webinars and seminars as such, and we'll be talking about that. And simply because it's Zoom or Teams or something, we record it so that you can watch it again and again and again. Over the last couple of months, we've introduced ISO workshops so that you, the facilitator or company owner, will understand what ISO is, how it fits into this. And we also have AI workshops. One of our licensees runs these workshops for us. Just want to touch on ISO for a moment. Does anybody that's here know whether or not ISO has been mentioned in any regulations of the Occupational Health and Safety Act? And if so, just go down to the chat box and tell me where, because it's there. ISO is mentioned in one of the regulations, which says that certain training companies must, or training departments must, by law, have an ISO certification. Now, I'm sure that's something that you've not heard before. And I'll be able to substantiate it by showing you the government gazette. Okay, enough on that. Then, of course, the elephant in the room is QCTO, the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations. We've got training material. We help you do your own accreditation, and Penny runs a DIY accreditation workshop, and she has a package of training material called the Accredi Kit. She takes people through the DIY accreditation workshop, and our next one is tomorrow. You may want to just chat to Natalie and or Penny and join us on that one. Then, of course, we've got extensive networking opportunities, both locally as well as in Africa, and we invite you to follow the journey from starter to basic, from basic to prime, and then, if appropriate, to the platinum license. Okay, let's just talk about legal compliance training. People often talk about legal liability, and we've got a program called the ACT track. We have a program called the AIDS track. You go, really? Yes. We have the asbestos track for the asbestos abatement regulations, the claims track for the COIDA, the Old Workmen's Compensation Act, construction regulations, working in confined spaces, COVID-19. You go, what? We thought COVID was gone. Well, interestingly enough, the QCTO still requires it for the accreditation process. Then, a program that we like to call DANGO, Conveying Dangerous Goods by Road, the ELECT track, the Enviro track, and this is not specifically the environmental regulations. This is just environment, because we often hear people talking of SHE, safety, health, and environment. So we have a really good program written by a lady who works from time to time for the United Nations. The ERGO track, come back to that one. The EVAC track. Now, these are non-credit bearing programs that you can run literally next week after sub-preparation. The fall track, which is basic fall protection, but it's not in terms of the construction regulation, because I'm sure you'll appreciate falling takes place not only on construction sites. Then the fire track, the first track, and that too is not General Safety Regulation 3 first aid. This is life skills first aid, and I'll explain that to you. The flag track, which is the flag man. We have 2 food safety programs, which once again are not part of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, but they're very much part of the health and safety program. The health and safety representative, some people like to call it the SHE-REP. The hazardous chemical substance program in terms of the HCA, the hazardous chemical agents. The HIRA, hazard identification and risk assessment. The inductor, which every single employee should be going through. We know that in the construction regulations, it's compulsory. The invest track, sure, you can see it's a long list. And as a prime licensee, you'll be receiving all of these programs in a Word for Windows or PowerPoint format so that you can customize it and you can run it for your clients or your employees. Noise track, stack track, super track, which is the supervisory program, tool track, and now the PAR regs, or the PAR, the Physical Agents Regulation. And we'll be talking about that in a short while. So there we go. There are 28 legal compliance programs that you can run. You can issue a certificate of attendance. You may do that. If you're a little concerned as to whether you're allowed to do this training, the answer is yes. Who's to stop you? And why would they want to stop you? I wrote a document for SIOSH some years ago called, Am I allowed to do this training? And I can gladly share it with you, or Natalie will be able to share it with you, that you can take a look at what your constitutional rights are to run training programs. Now, at this stage, I wanted to quickly stop and say this. I worked with a lady who said that, well, I met and worked with a lady who said all health and safety training programs, alles, every single one, must be accredited. That's misinformation. That's incorrect. That's actually irresponsible. Not all health and safety training has to be accredited. And I'll substantiate that if you'd like. So now that we've got this package, we'll be adding more and more and more training material to the package as we go along. And it means that you will be able to run these training programs for your teams. So don't hesitate to, if you're able in terms of knowledge, you don't have to be a subject matter expert, you can run the programs because we've written them in such a way that you can get your teeth into it and then start developing them. So let's talk about this PAR regs, or the PAR. I'm sure you know that there is a regulation that was published in the Government Gazette about 18 months ago. And they provided in that regulation a deadline saying the 6th of September this year, the Physical Agents Regulation come into effect, which is going to change so many things in the marketplace. We have a blog article that we've just uploaded to our website, which will talk about the details. You can go on there, have a look, and download it, and share it with your employer, your clients, your teams, your health and safety representatives, and so forth. It radically changes the definition of competency. Competency, as we knew it and spoke about it in the past, is not the same in the PAR. It's different. That's very important. For instance, and again, I spoke to somebody this week, it happened to be online, and he said this year he's done 100 HIRAs, hazard identification risk assessment, including PAR. Well, my statement to him was, or is, read the regulation. You may not do it and declare it as the final assessment. But what you can do, by the way, is as a generalist, you can draw the employer's attention to the fact that we have a problem with lighting or thermal conditions or radiation or noise and so forth. You have every right to do an awareness program and to do a provisional HIRA, but not the final HIRA as required in the regulation. So have a look at the date. It's the 2nd of July. If you're a prime licensee, you attend for free. You don't have to pay for it. It's a full day program, and that program is going to run on the basis of the first half will be talking about occupational hygiene. What is occupational hygiene? And I work for NOSA, and never in the NOSA courses did we stop for a long time and talk about what occupational hygiene is. I happen to be a registered audiometrist, was a registered audiometrist, and they didn't deal with PAR at all on those programs. Maybe now, maybe there are other programs like NEBOSH that do. Now, Don't want to criticize anybody. I'm just drawing your attention to the fact that this is a science. And unless you have a qualification in that science, you will not be regarded as competent to the best of the information that we've received some very senior people. Let me say that again. Unless you have a degree in occupational hygiene, you will not be able to conduct the final, they call it an exposure risk assessment. And then the last point that I want to point out, and suggesting this is why you need to be there. Now, if you're not a licensee, obviously there is a fee involved of 4,750 Rand, but we give you the training material so that you can start running these sessions for your clients or your employer. Okay. In this regulation, it says something which is really quite unique. The regulation comes out as a government gazette. It's made up of two parts. The first part of the regulation is the regulation, all 20 regulations. The second part of that government gazette is a document that's called the, what do they call it, Penny? Explanatory document. I'm running out of words. An explanatory document, which generally is the way that the Department of Employment and Labor will see this. And in that explanatory document, it says the following, and I'm going to use my own paraphrase here. Now, remember, I'm not a lawyer. If you want to speak to a lawyer, I know some lawyers. My best friend's a lawyer. Now, what you need to do is go and have a look at the explanatory document. It says every single health and safety representative and every single health and safety committee. Let me say that again. All health and safety reps, all committee members must attend a PAR workshop. Isn't that crazy? Now, I think it's wonderful, because if you're going to be in the training business and you're going to be running occupational health and safety training courses, the PAR is going to provide you with a lot of momentum. Okay, enough on that. You can go onto that bit.ly website at the bottom there, bit.ly, PAR regulations, and book there, or you can chat to Natalie or you can chat to Penny, but I'm going to strongly urge you to be there, because as we go around, we find that there are people out there that do not know this, and one of the people that I spoke about is an advocate specializing in Occupational Health and Safety Act. Wow, that was a shocker when I heard that. Okay, now I'm not pretending to be a lawyer, not at all. I am pretty much an amateur when it comes to law. I just like the topic a lot. Okay, now moving on. Here's something that you may be thinking about doing, is starting up your own e-learning platform. You don't have to. We've got one. And Penny works with our licensees on the basis of any income generated as a result of you introducing your clients to the e-learning platform. She will share income with you. I'm going to ask her just to scoot across and quickly tell you how you can generate income from the e-learning program without having to have your own e-learning program at this stage. Penny?
Thanks, Ken. So basically, you would sell the e-learning courses straight and direct to your clients. We don't get involved with your clients at all. However, I'm going to charge you a flat rate of $325 per learner per course, including VAT. And you can charge your client what you wish, but we suggest not less than $650 per learner per course. So you can immediately see where we're going with this. You've got a clear profit margin. We do a lot of the heavy lifting for you in terms of uploading your learners onto the system, sending you confirmation, etc. for that. And we also can pull reports on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis for you so that you can clearly show your clients who has completed each and every one of these courses. Each course is self-driven, so perfect for those who have the discipline to take themselves through the course themselves. But we do recommend that, especially if you've done the courses yourself, you're able to give them an orientation. A Zoom orientation is fine. And there is an assessment, multiple choice test at the end of each of these courses, which they must pass with more than 70% correct in order for the certificate of completion, for them to be able to download that. So this is a fantastic way for you to get a lot of legal compliance tick boxing done with your clients, and especially useful if you've got clients where they've got a few people scattered in different places around the country, or in different countries for that matter. It's working extremely well, and it's a great opportunity for you to add additional income to your business without you having to be 5 hours or 6 hours in front of a classroom yourself. So I'm going to hand back to Ken now, and he's going to take this a little bit further. We do give you free access as a prime licensee to at least 2 on your team to do all of these 18 courses. We're adding courses as we go, but at the moment, currently, there are 18. And should you complete all 18, we give you a very, very special trademark certificate, which we call the Hasman certificate.
Penny, thank you so much. Penny's nickname, for those of you that have just joined recently, is Money Penny, like the James Bond character. And this is one way that she came up with generating income for you, the licensee, to pay your license fee. Obviously, it's a business, and you need to make money from it. And this is one way that you can do. And then, of course, it helps you fund the establishment of the business. Now, there is one last thing that I want to talk about the e-learning program. So prime licensees will be able to send 2 people on all of these programs at no extra cost, which is fantastic. Or you can divvy it up according to your team, who needs what. And I want to just quickly point out there that there is an ergonomics regulation. So the regulation mentions ergonomic training about 20 times in that one regulation. Now, you may or may not know anything about ergonomics. So we'd say, right, do the e-learning program so you can familiarize yourself with the topic. Does that make you a subject matter specialist? No, it doesn't. Definitely not. But it allows you to understand the topic. And we'll do exactly the same for the PAR. Very, very, very important that you understand what we're talking about or what the legislation is talking about. Okay. Now, I mentioned something which is really important for you to know. The end of this month, all of the SAQA unit standards will expire. That's it. Finished. Klaar gelag, pelile, ijzikulo, it's gone. Tot ziens. And let me say that again, because I hear a lot of people say, no, we'll get CETA accreditation. No more. Doesn't happen. Can't get it. You can get QCTO accreditation. And that's one of the things that we help you with. I mentioned earlier on, research and development is very, very timeless and costly. So we'll do the research and development. We'll keep you up to date. You then talk to your clients about it. So here we have another 40 programs. We had 28 legal compliance programs, and we've got 40 programs where we've still got the unit standards, which may assist you when running courses, but they would be non-credit bearing courses as a result of this change from the Department of Higher Education and Training. Okay. Now, for those of you that are fairly new to the occupational health and safety world or the training world, it has a language of its own. And in particular, SAQA has its own language. And we often joke about it and we say the language is called SAQUISH. But not only that, have a look at this. I hear this all the time because we're obviously interacting with people. I want to be certified. And I go, what do you mean? I want my company to be certified. I go, what do you mean? I want to be verified. What do you mean? I want to be accredited. What do you mean? Because there are so many different words that are used in the marketplace, and we as professionals need to know what these words mean. And I'm just being quiet so you can see accredited. What's that mean? What's the definition of accredited? And who does accreditation? Accreditation isn't done by SIOSH, even though we're members of SIOSH, we're corporate members. You can't get accreditation from SIOSH, and I see it on people's advertising. Accredited by SIOSH. I go, no, you could be verified by SIOSH. Then the next word is agreed. What does that mean? Well, have a look at Section 18 of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Do you know that certain training must be agreed upon by the committee or the health and safety reps? Not hired in, not get the guy that's going to come and run the program without any attempt to customize it. Then what does aligned mean? Well, people think generally aligned in terms of the unit standard or the curricular code. But what about aligned with the Occupational Health and Safety Act? That's where alignment comes in first and foremost. Comply with the Act, as I'm sure you would agree. And then, once you've complied with the Act, look at QCTO or SAQA or NQF or any of those things. Then approved. There are some places where approval is required in the Act, such as the first aid training, such as the driven machinery regulations training and or training provider. And then certified. What does that mean? Now that's just the first off. There's more. What does competent mean? And do you know that the definition of competency is going to change forever with this new PAR regulation? And who declares the person competent? Wow, I've got a lot that I can share with you. And when you become a licensee, attend the orientation session and I'll talk to you about these things. Compliant, registered, verified. And what we do is, like a franchise, we license you in terms of the Consumer Protection Act of 2008. Have a look at that definition. Now, what we're going to be talking to you about mainly is accreditation, because accreditation is where it's at. And all clients, employers, they say it must be accredited. And I say this with respect. In many instances, they don't know what that means. Quite simply that. Okay. Now, I said competency is going to change in terms of the definition. Where do we find competency? Most people think it's QCTO or CETA or SACWA. It's actually not. It's a legal word. They borrowed it or hijacked it in some instances. And you look at, of the 22-23 regulations, you'll see that in the definition, which is always regulation number 1, about 11 regulations talk about competency. Then they unpack it there. And this is important for you, because if you're going to be an accredited training provider, you need to know this well. And I'll provide you with a lot more information. But it says there, listen to this, means a person who has, in respect of the work or task to be performed, the required knowledge. So that's number 1, knowledge, training, and experience. So if you think of a man or a worker who attends a one-day course, do they have the required knowledge, training, and experience? That's a question. Good question. Then furthermore, it says, and where applicable, the necessary qualifications specific to that work or related task. And then it carries on. It says, where the appropriate qualifications and training are registered in terms of the NQF Act, those qualifications and that training must be regarded as the required qualifications and training. And then look at subsection B of the Regulation 1. That competent person must be familiar with the Act and the applicable regulations made under the Act. Now, how about that? So let me ask you this question. You put a person through a first aid course, 2 or 3 days, however long it is, whether it's going to be a basic or an intermediate or an advanced. Do they walk away knowing what the Act says? They might know first aid. And do they know what that regulation says? Okay, so we unpack these things because we don't want to see you in trouble. And we certainly don't want to see the employer in trouble. And we certainly want to see the employee getting the best training possible. Now, in the current draft construction regulations, they've taken out any reference in the draft to the NQF Act. And then, as I said, watch this physical agents regulation, the competency definition over there. So you go, wow, stuff I've never heard about. And if you have heard about it, well done. Congratulations for following what's going on in the marketplace. But I can say this, it's changing. And we need to know what has to go into the training and, of course, into the health and safety system. And you, as a health and safety professional, you need to be up on these things. Now, it's largely what we do is we follow this legislation as closely as possible. We speak to the appropriate people. We help where possible so that you can get a better insight, or we refer where possible to show you where to go for the answers. There's a lot more that I can talk about this at this stage, but I want to just quickly ask you this question. Looking at the PAR regulations at the bottom, if you as a health and safety practitioner go in and do a PAR, which is the Physical Agents Regulation, assessment, are you allowed to? Because it says there, qualifications. Do you have a qualification in noise or lighting or vibration or ergonomics? Do you have that in radiation, temperature, air quality? Do you have the qualification? Because that's what they're saying with the PAR. You have to have a qualification. And inevitably, if you're familiar with the organization SIO, which is the South African Institute of Occupational Health or Hygiene, apologies, South African Institute of Occupational Hygiene, that's a 3-year degree. Do you have the qualification to do an exposure risk assessment? Now, what we need to do collectively is we need to say, let's create an awareness. Let's talk to employers. Let's draw their attention to the fact that they may need to bring in a 50,000 or 100,000 Rand occupational hygienist to determine whether these levels, occupational exposure levels, are acceptable. And that PAR regulation is full of tables. Wow, you really do need to have an understanding of mathematics and the sciences. All right, enough of that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on, because we do have a number of QCTO programs, and you can get QCTO accreditation. If you already got QCTO accreditation, well done. Tomorrow, Penny will be running this workshop, which is the 11th of June. And I'm going to ask her to quickly come across and just talk through what she's going to be doing tomorrow. Penny?
Thanks, Ken. So every month we do a 2-hour workshop which goes through the basics of the accreditation process with the QCTO. We started investing in this program of do-it-yourself accreditation in January of 2022. We're super proud of all of our licensees that have already got their accreditation, firstly for the first aid skills programs, and now with the new OHS skills programs that were published in November of last year. A lot of our licensees are getting that in place now as well, and we're seeing those accreditations come through almost on a daily basis. So the program is working, it's very successful. Our training material is very well received in terms of the verifiers, and we've actually got one of our licensees here today who's also a QCTO verifier who's been so helpful. Thank you so much, Eugene, for all your guidance in helping us prepare this program. So we also give you a Google Drive, which we call the Accredi Kit, and in that you've got your quality management system template that's revised every year for you and kept in line with the QCTO policies and procedures. You do need to customize it according to your own company, but there's a tutorial on that as well. The training materials all have as much filled in as possible for you on the Forms 3 and Forms 4 that you will need for your accreditation submission, which shows that you have followed and answered each and every element of the QCTO curriculums. We fill those out as much as we can for you. You just need to add in your company details, etc. It is a self-application process. The actual application online itself is going to be very quick. It's going to take you an hour or so. And then the desktop evaluation goes on forward. And then as long as you have submitted all your documents appropriately for that, then you will get a clearance on that, and then the site visit will take place. The QCTO skills programs at the moment, I think we're actually on 9 at the moment, or 10, and there's another couple in the pot at the moment, just waiting to come through. And we've just had knowledge of HWCTA saying that there are a whole nother set of OHS skills programs that have been pre-approved, but we're waiting for them currently to be published on the website, but excited for those to come through. We've got an outstanding development team that have produced these training materials to an extremely, extremely high standard. And the first aid ones that we did, already a couple of years ago, we've actually now completely revised and refreshed them according to this new standard that we've evolved to. And we've also included visuals for each and every one of those as well. So those have been extremely well received. With the accreditation guidance, we really do focus on the preparation. We have outstanding licensees that already have CETA accreditation for many, many courses, and have already established themselves well in the market, and offer a very, very high standard in terms of their venue presentation, etc. But we take you through each and everything that you're going to need. There is the 5 that we like to focus on, that we really recommend that all of our licensees definitely get accreditation for these 5, because they're all of the 2 credits. And then we've also just added now the HAZREP, the high risk as well, the 816. And there's another 2 coming through now, which would be your elevated emergency and escape, etc. And I can't remember the other title, but they are coming through shortly. Each of these training materials include a detailed facilitator guide. We do provide you everything in Word and PDF format. We do suggest that you keep to the PDF format for the accreditation process. We have a learner guide, we have a learner orientation. We also include a copy of the OHS Act for you here and evaluation forms. We give you facilitator visuals, we give you a knowledge module and practical module workbooks, we give you assessor and moderator guide. We also include a minimum of 3 pieces, which is your final integrated summative assessment in each of the training materials. And this will help you tremendously when you are accredited and you now need to go forward and train, and we'll more about that. Forms 3 and Forms 4, which is your implementation plan and your learning material matrix. And also Ken has done an excellent book called the Q Book. And the ROAR is a record of assessed result. So we give you all of these additional documents. We do also include in each training material the actual QCTO curriculum document, as well as the QCTO explanatory document. So you can see it's a complete delivery. I think it's in excess of 14 or 15 different elements within each of your training material deliveries. I think with that, I'm going to hand back to Ken, who's just going to chat quickly about the solutions for working at heights.
I just want to go back to where Penny was over there. You saw the Zoom sign come up. What you started doing so that you can assess the content of the training material, the quality, the layouts, the fonts, the styles, you can look at the methodology, things of that nature. You can set up a Zoom meeting with Natalie. It's a one-on-one Zoom, either for you and your team or just you and I will walk you through each one of those documents. You can say, I want to see this, and I'll show it to you. Unfortunately, what's happened in the past is that we find people sending out samples, and they get a sample of a facilitator guide or a learner guide or something like that, which we look at and we go, oh, wow, who developed that? I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't pay for it. And this document arrives, and it's not an effective way of conducting a due diligence. So we happily set up a Zoom meeting, and even if it takes an hour, I will walk you through each one of these elements. Then it's up to you to decide, is this appropriate or not? So with that in mind, let's just move on to the next aspect. Oopsie. The next aspect over here. I want to say to you that it's not a perfect world. And one of the areas that we're really concerned about is working at heights. And you know that with the Department of Higher Education and Training, they canceled the CETA unit standards, with the intention of having the QCTO write a curriculum for working at heights. Now, working at heights apparently is the #1 killer when people fall from heights in South Africa. And yet, QCTO hasn't written a curriculum. And we've got 20 days to go. So it's a really, really serious problem. At the AOSH, which is the Africa Occupational Safety and Health Expo, we spoke to the lady from the Institute of Working at Heights, and they have come up with a system which may be an interim system. And I don't want to get into too much detail, but there's her name and her email and their website. Take a photo of that, contact Lizanne, find out what information she can provide you with regards getting not accredited for working at heights with the Institute of Working at Heights, but that you can get some sort of official endorsement. So at this stage, we don't have an answer, and they're developing this thing called a license to practice. And it's really important for those of you that are in the construction industry. Now, Penny mentioned that there are more programs coming. There they are. Grab your phone, take a photo, and you can have a look at them. Right at the bottom, you'll see ergonomics. Ergonomics, there we go. 5 credits, 5 level 5 NQF. Now, ergonomics is a topic that I'm really fond of. And we wrote a training program together with South Africa's, or one of South Africa's top ergonomists, so that you can do ergonomics training yourself, or awareness, or information sessions, or whatever you want to call it. And we developed the e-learning platform as well. Okay, so there we go. We're waiting. I go onto the QCTO website on a daily basis to see whether they've published these programs. Okay, more about that later on. The clock is ticking. We've got 20 days to go before this thing crashes. And I'm saying that almost alarmingly, because you will not be able to get accredited training. You will not be able to get accreditation for working at heights. Can't get it. And unless you've registered your employees this month, accredited training cannot take place next month. Okay, more explanation on that. Right. So let's have a look at what this is going to cost. I'm going to start off at the top, and I'm going to ask Natalie just to talk it through. Are you still there, Natalie? You're able to talk this through?
Yeah, I am here.
Great. Starting with platinum.
Great. So the platinum license is negotiated dependent on the number of employees and branches. And we usually like to have a one-on-one call just to discern what your needs are. But it can start from about 105,500.
And
All
then there is a
prices are
license fee.
exclusive of that. Sorry.
Sorry.
All prices are exclusive of that, and there's a monthly license fee on top of that of 1,500 per month. Or for the platinum, we do an annual license fee. So if you pay ahead, then we offer a small discount on that. The prime license has an upfront fee of 49,500 and a monthly license fee of 1,500 per month. The basic license has an upfront fee of 29,500, also with the same monthly license fee of 1,500 per month. The starter package has an upfront fee of 15,500 and a monthly license fee of 500 per month. And we also sell our training material separately for 2,995 Rand each. And our QCTO training material we sell for 4,995 each.
Right. And then at the bottom there, you can see that any and all expenses incurred in setting up or running your business is tax deductible. So I'd like to suggest something. When you receive the prospectus, print it or email it to your accountant, to your bookkeeper, your attorney, your legal advisor, and ask them for their opinion on this process. Because can you claim all of this back from the income tax or from SARS? The answer is yes. Natalie, thank you so much. Anything else you'd like to add there?
We're just missing the QPAC license.
Yes, we are. Oh my gosh. All right.
So we also have our QPAC license.
The QPAC being all the QCTO material and the accreditation workshops.
The details of that are in the prospectus. So I've given the link in the chat to request the prospectus, and then you'll get the detailed information on each of these license options within that.
Great. Good. Natalie, thank you so much. Natalie will be behind the scenes to send you documentation, to send quotes. She'll be able to do that type of stuff for you. And of course, to answer some of your questions. She's also empowered to talk to you about the costings. In as much as for those that have a little bit of a cash flow hiccup, she can, or you can negotiate with her to see if you can pay it over a month or two instead of all in one go. Nats, anything else?
I think just to mention that our prices are increasing from the 1st of July. We have been communicating that via email. So if you are sitting on the fence, we would highly suggest that you just jump in this month before our prices go up from the 1st.
So now Natalie's sounding like a salesperson, which is exactly the case. We don't have much time. We really don't have much time. And if you delay things, you might find yourself in a situation where your accreditation only comes through early next year. So there we go. Natalie, thank you so much. I'm going to move on. I'm going to ask Natalie to talk about the online marketing presence that she does for all Prime licensees, well, Basic and Prime. Natalie has a media degree from, I think it's a media degree, my apologies, from the University of Cape Town. And she has worked for large advertising agencies in the social media department, and she's been assisting countless of our licensees in setting it up. So over to you, Nats.
Thanks. Yeah, so what's included in the Basic and Prime license is an online marketing presence setup. We've just found that, often when you are starting a business or running your own business, this can kind of fall to the wayside. And just to make that process easier for you, I do this initial setup for you, or I help optimize the setup that you currently have, as well as give you a whole digital marketing rollout plan with all the kind of tips and tricks that you need to get going, and just give you some guidance on how best you can make sure that you are discoverable and looking credible in terms of this being the face of your business.
Great. And I must say this, that Natalie has helped us, INTRA, hugely to make our presence known on the internet. I'm going to ask Penny just to talk a little bit more about the onboarding, the orientation, and the webinars that we do. And then I'm also going to talk to you, or she's going to talk to you about two very important elements that we've now included in our entire package.
I think a large part of the value that our licensees enjoy is that they have free access to our webinars, and we have a number of different webinars that we run monthly for them. In terms of the onboarding, there is Ken's business orientation webinar that runs every month or every second month, depending. And if you're on the Prime license or Platinum license, you would be able to attend the do-it-yourself workshops as well. And then we have a whole series of additional webinars, normally per product, etc. At the moment, we are focusing on AI in order to elevate and empower our licensees as soon as possible. And we have an excellent AI workshop coming up on the 18th of June. Definitely, you don't want to miss that. If you're not a licensee by that time, you can do a paid version. It's only 950 rands, and that does include a full kit that gets delivered to you. So really worthwhile. And it's going to radically, it's a game changer, an absolute game changer. It's going to radically improve your ability to deliver in a number of different areas in health and safety training, in particular toolbox talks, investigations, safe work procedures, blah, 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 blah. But there's a lot of information about it on the website. Have a look at that, and you can definitely register for that separately. And just a word that if you are paying for any items or products with INTRA, and then you decide at a later stage to upgrade to a license, remember that we will deduct those costs from the license program to a maximum, I think, of 50% of the upfront fee. So there is definitely a huge advantage there for you. The other webinar, which is becoming very popular, is the ISO awareness training programs that we've been running. These are presented by Pierre Fenter, who has many years experience in ISO audits, etc. He's a lead auditor, and he takes 4 hours to really explain and elaborate on the different ISO qualifications and certifications. So that definitely is also highly recommended.
Great, Penny, thank you so much. So when we say that we deliver about R250,000 worth of product and services, we will do what we can to help you get up and running and get your business profitable. The intention of business is to make a profit. That's the intention. This is obviously for you, it's not a charity that you're going to be running, but it is. You also need to know that you have somebody that will guide you as far as possible. I mentioned again and again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an occupational hygienist. I'm a general health and safety practitioner. I happen to be an audiometrist in the past, and I am passionate about this topic. This is something that I believe that we need to elevate. We need to get the standards up. We need to make sure that the typical fly-by-night occupational health and safety people are equipped, not kicked out, but equipped to do a great job for their clients and their employees. Okay, moving on. I mentioned that there was an opportunity to collaborate and to network. And we operate in these different countries. And if you have a need, for instance, right now, if you have a need for, let's say, working at heights training, and you need somebody this month still to do a training program for your client, you can contact Penny, and she'll put the word out to our licensees. And those licensees that can serve you and your clients best, Penny will put you in touch with them and then with you, and you can then negotiate with them. When I was at NOSA, it was almost frowned upon to pass any work to anybody else. And it just meant that everybody had to be a specialist or a subject matter expert. But I'm saying, and we're saying, you don't have to be. You can run a very effective company. and you can collaborate with people and you can network with people to your benefit. All right, so having said that, I'm going to ask you to contact Natalie. Take a photograph of that URL at the top there, the Zoom scheduler URL. We can set up a meeting, you and I, and we can talk for half an hour or so. And please come to that session with your questions. So you would have printed the prospectus. You have questions, and we'll answer those questions one-on-one for either you and or your team. However, right now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to stop the recording, and we're going to ask you for your questions, and we'll just open up for discussions. And anybody may participate in this. That'd be an absolute pleasure. There is a document called the roadmap as to where to from here, and that roadmap will give you a little bit of a direction. Turn right, turn left, it's like a GPS. And what I'm going to suggest that you do is ask Natalie for that, so that you have an understanding of what you would be getting into. Remember, it is a business, and you need to do your due diligence. And that's why I keep saying, talk to your lawyer, talk to your accountant, talk to your partner, talk to people who are in the know, talk to people who have a business currently, and people who have been in business for a while, so that you're not going to make a decision just based on emotion. It's nice to say there's 17 million people that need to be trained, but there's more to it than that. There is a business behind it. And you, like Penny and myself, we had to understand how to run a small business. So with that, I'm going to start wrapping up. There's Natalie's number again, 069 652 9696, 069 652 9696. This evening, Natalie will upload this to YouTube, and then she'll communicate with you so that you can get the URL and you can watch it again and again and again. So with that, I want to say thank you so much to everybody that's participated. I'm going to stop the recording. If I can find the button, there we go. And then we can open the microphones to any and all so that we can answer your questions. Great. Good. I think I've stopped the recording. And now, let's open the microphones.